For over 1,000 years, this invention terrified invaders and reshaped world history. And yet today, few people know its name. Even fewer can pronounce it. It is called Greek fire. In this episode, we will reveal what this invention was, how it worked, and why it might have been one of the most terrifying weapons ever invented. The story begins in the 7th century AD. At the time, the mighty Roman Empire had fallen into decline. But in its eastern provinces, Roman tradition was kept alive by the so-called Byzantine Empire centered in the city of Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul. The capital was built on the site of ancient Byzantium, which is where it gets its name. Although the empire was small, it was very rich, controlling key trade routes between Europe and Asia. Because of this, it was frequently targeted by expansionist Arab nations. And here's where Greek fire enters the story. In 668, the Arab fleet besieged the city. Historical accounts describe them as being over 2,000 ships strong. To put that into perspective, the biggest navy in the world today is China's, with just 350 ships. If they had existed back then, the Arabs would have outnumbered the Byzantine navy by 6 times. But despite being hopelessly outnumbered, the defenders stood their ground. They repelled wave after wave of attackers, thanks to their secret new weapon. Ancient texts describe it as being released from tubes positioned along the walls of the city. But in reality, it was likely fired from siphon-like devices attached to ships. These were similar to the pumps used by sailors to remove water from the bottom of a ship. But instead of pumping out water, they pumped out Greek fire. When it came into contact with enemy vessels, it stuck to them like glue and burst into flames. It is said to have burned fiercely, even on the surface of the sea. But exactly how is something of a mystery. Some scholars theorize that the compound didn't actually burn in the traditional sense, but rather smoldered. This is similar to how coal can burn underwater. However, we don't know if this would have worked on larger ships made of wood. Others argue that the burning must have been real because eyewitness accounts describe entire fleets being wiped out. In fact, according to historian John Julius Norwich, when the liquid touched a target, not even the quickest swimming Arab could escape its fiery embrace. In other words, Greek fire likely burned at such a high temperature that it incinerated anything that got too close. But there was another important detail about the weapon that no one has been able to unlock. It stayed alight even when doused with seawater. You may have experienced how hard it is to keep a fire going when there's rain or wind involved. Now imagine trying to do so underwater. How would Greek fire resist the cooling effects of the sea? Perhaps it contained substances that kept it hot enough to continue burning. Or maybe it didn't burn in the traditional sense at all. Maybe it was some kind of explosive or incendiary chemical reaction. Sadly, the truth has been lost to history. What we know comes from a handful of ancient texts written many centuries after the weapon was used. One of these was written by Emperor Leo, the African. He reigned from 790 to 802 AD, making him the first leader of the empire to use the title caliphate. He described how the liquid could be hurled against the enemy, even under the sea, where it would stick to their ships and burn. There are also descriptions of it being thrown from catapults, although we don't know if this is correct. Other accounts say the fire could burn for hours or even days, which would have been extremely useful during long sieges. It seems as though the Byzantines had mastered the use of Greek fire by the 8th century, but we don't know much about its origins. Historians suspect it was invented around a half-century earlier, perhaps around the year 620. This was during the reign of Emperor Heraclius. During his time, the empire faced several major attacks, including from the Persians in the east and the Bulgarians in the north. So it's possible that Greek fire was developed as a response to these threats. According to tradition, it was captured from the Persians. But whether this is true or not, it clearly played a key role in defending the empire for decades. During this time, Greek fire helped the Byzantines repel invasions from all sides. One notable attack occurred in 742, when the Arabs attempted to capture the island of Rhodes. Once again, they vastly outnumbered their opponents, this time by 1,800 ships to 20. But once more, the Byzantines prevailed thanks to the use of Greek fire. We know about it only because an Arab commander named Amru ibn al-As wrote about it in a letter. In it, he complained that his fleet had been scattered and defeated by a liquid substance propelled from catapults. He admitted that his own ships had also been damaged, saying the liquid was like nothing he had ever seen before. However, Greek fire's greatest test came a few decades later in the siege of Constantinople. This occurred between 741 and 743 AD, when the emperor's own brother attempted to seize power. The usurper's fleet was massive, said to number over 800 ships. Once again, the legitimate emperor, Constantine V, turned to Greek fire. According to Arab sources, this time the liquid was released through pipes built into the city walls. This doesn't seem likely, since the Byzantines likely wouldn't have risked contaminating their precious supply. Instead, it probably came from siphon-like devices mounted on ships. Although the siege lasted for over 2 years, the attackers were eventually repelled, and Greek fire emerged victorious. Sadly, it wouldn't remain secret forever. Around the year 1204, Constantinople was sacked by Venetian and French crusaders. This marked the beginning of the end for the Byzantine Empire. Over the following decades, the city changed hands numerous times. In 1453, it was conquered by the Ottoman Turks, bringing an end to the Eastern Roman Empire after 1,000 years. With the fall of the Byzantines, the knowledge of Greek fire was lost. The Ottomans didn't possess the technology to recreate it, and the Europeans who witnessed it firsthand didn't realize the significance of what they had seen. Most assumed it was nothing more than liquid metal. It wasn't until centuries later that historians began piecing together the truth. Today, we still don't know the full truth behind the mysterious concoction. What we do know is that the formula was known as the secret of secrets. Whoever was in charge of producing the substance was sworn to secrecy, and anyone who revealed its formula was put to death. This helps us understand why so little is known about it today. There have been many attempts to recreate it, but none have been successful. This is partly because we don't know the exact formula, but it is also because we don't understand how the Byzantines were able to produce it in the first place. It required highly skilled chemists who understood complex reactions. Today, there are plenty of experts who know the theory behind alchemy, but no one knows how to make Greek fire. According to historian Anthony Caldelis, the secret lay in the actual production process, saying the composition of the mixture was known not only to the producer, but also to the consumer. This means the formula might have been passed down orally, only taught to those who would use the weapon. That would explain why it took so long for word of the weapon to get out. Regardless of what the formula was, it was extremely dangerous. Unlike regular fuel, it didn't need oxygen to spread. It could literally burn underwater. While much of the speculation has focused on chemistry, there is also the possibility that Greek fire utilized techniques that are far more advanced than our current understanding allows. It might have been a form of plasma weapon, something that has only recently been considered by military scientists. In 2020, the U.S. Navy published a report on directed energy weapons. These included laser-based systems, particle beams, and railguns. All of these operate by harnessing plasma. So far, plasma weapons haven't been deployed, but they will likely play a major role in future conflicts. Could it be that the Byzantines invented one of the first plasma weapons? It's certainly possible. Plasma is a superheated state of matter that forms when gas is heated to such a high temperature that it becomes ionized. This gives it unique properties and makes it conductive. It's why stars shine and why lightning bolts crackle. Directed energy weapons utilize plasma because it can be controlled in ways that other forms of energy cannot. For example, plasma can be turned into a beam that can travel hundreds of miles without losing power. In other words, it can be focused and used to burn through almost any material. This could explain how Greek fire burned even underwater, and how it stuck to ships. But what evidence do we have that the Byzantines possessed this kind of technology? The answer is none. We can't know for sure until the true formula is discovered. So what do you think? Do you think Greek fire was an advanced form of plasma weapon, or was it a simple chemical compound? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe for more historical tales. Thank you for watching.